So there's this really interesting question that I saw that I wanted to attack, which said that 10 years after the end of a relationship, can you be friends with an ex? And I made some notes on this that I wanted to share with you, and I hope that it can help you to become a higher, fuller expression of yourself. So the answer to the question is technically, there is two answers. The first of which is no. I would say 9 times out of 10, partners, people who've been married, ex-partners, cannot be friends with people with whom they were married to. Absolutely no way. Why is that, Kasim? Well, part of it is because usually of the reason of the divorce previously. We know that there are several reasons for a divorce. The most common ones I wrote down here, which were infidelity. Infidelity is one of the most common reasons why couples divorce. I say infidelity. It's not even infidelity. Let me just pause here for a minute. Most people think the reason for a divorce was infidelity. Actually, infidelity is the product of something else within the relationship which is missing. So usually in the relationship is a lack of communication about sexual desires. So somebody wants something in the relationship, but they can't get it, or they've been too shy. Particularly women. Women have been trained not to ask. When women are growing up, they've been trained to be submissive, be small, not ask for what they want, right? To be people pleasers, please their man, right? And so a lot of women's needs never get met during the duration of a relationship. Anyway, without me continuing down that path, I just really wanted to say that because a lot of people don't understand that. And the metaphor that I try to use with this is, imagine there is a fire alarm going off in your house. Most people would think that if there's a fire alarm going off in your house, the problem is a fire alarm. No, the problem is not the fire alarm. The fire alarm is the signal, it is the result, because the actual problem is the smoke, is that there is something burning in your house. So it's something which is causing smoke, which is then triggering the fire alarm. So that's what I mean when I say that infidelity is the cause. Infidelity doesn't happen. People who are happily married don't cheat, right? So that tells, and here's where it gets even more complicated. There are some people who are in relationships and they allow their partner to sleep with other people. So that means that infidelity can't be the problem, right? The problem is there is something else, the lack of communication, whatever it may be, that is causing the problem. So let's continue what I was talking about. So we know that there are some reasons why couples divorce, okay? Well, number one is infidelity. We know that money is a huge factor, a huge problem for a lot of people, right? And particularly women, right? We live in this world today where, I'll be honest with you, I have to actually train men to go and get money because men just simply aren't providing. I think it's got really complicated with money. Let me stop here again because this is important for me to talk about a little bit as well. Because of the feminist movement and the Me Too movement and all these movements that are around at the moment, I think there is a lot of confusion, particularly for men and for boys. And a lot of people don't understand that whilst our thinking has developed exponentially over the last, God knows, 2,000 years of recorded history, unfortunately, our basic needs have not. Okay? And one of the most basic needs that we have, and it's been because it's been like this throughout history, is that women want a man who can provide for them. You know, I have what I call inconvenient truths. In my research and when I've been studying people and studying life and studying success, I found out things that I didn't particularly want to hear. One of the things that I've discovered is that most women, when they get to about 30 years of age, they don't want to work. They'll work if they have to provide for their children, to help their husband set up the business so that he can then take it to another level. Like, women will absolutely work. That's not the issue. But if a woman had the choice between working and not working, most women would not. Again, like I've always said, there's an exception to every single rule. There are a very small, minute amount of women who absolutely love work. They don't give a shit about family. Not that they're bad people, but family is the last thing that they can think of. What they're really focused on his power, he's becoming a CEO, he's getting as far ahead as possible, accumulating as much money as possible. That is their absolute main focus. Okay? Friendships and all that kind of stuff, yeah, it's good, but it isn't the be and all. The majority of women don't want to work when they get past age 30, because what happens that a lot of people don't get, and until you get to about 30 you won't understand this, is that a lot of women start thinking about families. When a lot of women get to about 30, families begin to get on their radar. Kids begin to get on their radar, because their biological clock literally is like, we need to make a baby. A lot of guys don't even understand. If you actually look at when a woman is at the most prime for having a child, do you know it's about age 18, 19? A woman's actually, for making children, a woman is at her prime about age 18 and 19. The longer the woman takes to have a child, the more difficult it becomes. Like, one of the biggest shocks to me, and yes, I may have been naive, shoot me, but making a baby, if you ever try to make a baby, is not as simple as what you think it is. Most of us think you just have sex, you have a baby, you just have sex, and then the baby arrives. It doesn't work like that, right? These ovulation periods, these fertility windows, like there's so many things that encompass actually physically making a baby that most of us don't understand. The people who actually end up having a baby randomly is such a small minority. That's why we pay attention to it. Most of us, we pay attention and we read about things that are not common. When something is common, you don't care about it, right? That's why you don't care about somebody running a marathon. That's why we don't see it on TV. We only care if somebody's run 100 marathons, because it is so rare. Do you understand what I'm saying? So going back to money, money is one of the major problems. Compatibility, whether that be sexually, in terms of family, in terms of values, is a big problem. Dysfunctional dynamics, where you have a lot of things like codependency. Do you understand? This causes a lot of problems. So the answer, going back to the first point that I was talking about, is most couples cannot be friends, like actual friends, seeing each other, buddying, going out for food, hanging out with each other after they've been divorced, because of all of these reasons, because all of those reasons still exist. In fact, one of the things that I tell people is, if you're going to get back with somebody, you absolutely need to ensure that the reason why you broke up has been dealt with. Because if you haven't dealt with that thing, whatever it is that caused the relationship to break up in the first place, if you get back together, all of the fears, all of the anxiety, all of those things are going to start flooding straight back in as soon as you get back into a relationship, right? So, that's the first thing. Most cases, no. Now, I know that there are some of you who are sat there saying, but there are some people who do. And the answer is, of course there are. And in fact, if you're listening and watching me talk about this conversation, then you know that of course there are some couples where it does work. And so what I thought I'd do is just share some ideas with you on how you can go about realizing if it can work. I think firstly, the first and foremost thing is, do you both want it to? Right? Because I think nothing is as powerful as desire. When two people genuinely both want something, irrelevant of how difficult it is or how hard it is, they will both make it work, right? Though, of course, they might have to make sacrifices. There'll be moments when maybe it's not operating at 90% and instead it's operating at 60%. But if you both want it, I've realized that human beings can do and achieve incredible things when they really want to achieve them, right? So that's the first thing. Second thing that I would share is, do you want to be part of the minority? Because if you decide that you want to become part of a minority, there is a price that comes with being part of a minority. Being part of a minority, you get hated on. Because when you become part of a minority, you expose everybody else. One of the things that I was sharing with somebody the other day, in fact, I was telling them that I was going to have this talk and I was going to talk about this. And one of the things that I was sharing with them is, part of the reason why a lot of people don't want, because one of the things that's going to happen is, if you decide to get back with your X and be friends, one of the repercussions that's going to happen is everybody's going to tell you not to do it. This is why I say you have to decide if you want to be part of the minority, because it's a decision you have to make. No one is going to encourage you to do it, right? Even I'm not going to tell you to do it, because I know the chances of it working are so rare that it's a decision you have to make, and then you have to follow through, both of you. So if you decide to go against the grain, there's going to be repercussion, which is going to be people are going to tell you that it's not going to work. As a result of people telling you that it's not going to work, you are going to have to deal with those people basically doubting that the relationship is not going to work. And you've got to ask yourself, do you want to deal with that? You've got to ask yourself, do you want to deal with the price of that? Because you may have to go 4 or 5 years being friends when your friends remember the pain that you went through when you were going through your divorce. They remember the times that you complained to them about how painful it was and how anxious you were and how fearful you were. And the person who you're getting back friends with, they are the cause of it. They were the cause of all that pain and anguish for you. And now you want your friends to encourage it. The likelihood of them encouraging it is very, very, very unlikely. So you really, really, really want to think about that. And the other thing that I would then share with you is that you want to do what's called doing the maths. Doing the maths means you want to begin to think about, if you become friends, what are the outcomes that are possible to happen? So, for example, number one, you could become friends and everything works out perfectly. You could become friends and everything end up even worse than it was before you got divorced. And it ruined everything altogether. You could become friends and end up as lovers. You could become friends and end up sleeping with each other sometimes, and then this dysfunctional relationship begins to evolve between you two. You could become friends, but the other person's actually looking to find evidence to backstab you. Right? I talk about what I call shadow intentions. Shadow intentions is somebody says they want this or they're doing something because of this, but actually they're doing it because of this. Easy example is you hear somebody say, I go to church, but they're not going to church because they believe in God. They're going to church because they want people to say, oh my God, you're such a good person. That's the shadow intention, right? So why is it? You got to do the maths. If you take this risk, do you think it's going to work out for the better, or do you think it's going to work out for the worse? You've got to be able to do that, because when you do that, it will help you come up with analysis as to whether this is a good decision or not. Would I do it? I personally would not do it, is the honest answer. I would not get back with somebody who I've been divorced with. Now, being amicable with them, let's say we have children together, of course I could be amicable with them for the children. But being friends, going out for meals, hanging out at each other's houses, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it, because it would mess with your mind. I think when you get married to somebody, there's always deep down like an emotional attachment that is still attached. And I'd be too scared for that emotional attachment to arise again. So I don't know whether that's been useful for you or not, but I just thought that I would talk about that. Thank you very much for watching.